it just felt like I could breathe and just less overwhelming and like, oh my gosh, I can still do this. Because I think with the 3 years, with the quarters goals, it felt like, oh my God, how am I going to get all this done? But with the intention and setting intentions, it's like, well, it's possible and I don't have to think about a deadline. Hello and welcome to the Authentic Wednesday podcast. Each week, my guest and I share our vulnerable behind-the-scenes stories of giving ourselves permission to take off our masks, let go of our expectations, and embrace our own path of freedom and authentic connection. I'm your host, Bianca Hughes, a lover of authenticity and a licensed professional counselor in Georgia. Hello and welcome to the Authentic Wednesday podcast. I am your host, Bianca Hughes. I'm so glad to be back. I have had a great break, great time off over the past 2 weeks, even though I know I've been off the podcast for a month, but I've actually had a break for a week and I'm feeling very, very refreshed and glad to be here. So it is me on the podcast today. I do have some great guests coming up for you over the next coming few months, and you're just going to love their stories and what they have to share. This is episode 53 of the podcast, and I thought that being the beginning of the year, I thought I would talk a bit about setting intentions really and the benefits of them instead of kind of setting goals. So I want to share a bit about my own experience of setting goals, or shall I say New Year's resolutions. It's probably been about 15 years or more. I say 15 because I know I've been in Atlanta for 15 and I haven't set any New Year since I lived in London. Shall I say New Year's resolution since I lived in London. So it's definitely been over 15 years since I set a resolution. The reason was I got fed up of failing and feeling frustrated when I wasn't able to keep up with the New Year's resolutions. And I guess they weren't really fitting for me as well. So I also realized that I can start a new habit whenever I wanted to without the added pressure of it has to be in the new year and it has to be done within a year. So it's really interesting that I kind of did it based on failing and feeling like I failed. But over the years, I have, shall I say, it has enabled me to find out what works for me when it comes to just growth and even just not growing. I know one of the things that I've also come up with over the years is maintaining versus having a new goal. So once I stopped doing New Year's resolutions, I found that it was really pressure-free. Don't get me wrong, I still made goals. I still wrote things down because I definitely believe in writing down visions, doing vision boards, writing down dreams and things like that. But one of the big things I did was it didn't necessarily have to be in the new year. And also there was flexibility. So it didn't have to have this certain time frame. And so that's what I have been doing. And I will say so many things I've said that I've wanted to do or desired to do. I have found the things that I had probably less pressure on are the things that really have manifest. Like I remember years ago saying I wanted to do a podcast, had no idea what it was going to be like. And here I am, what shall I say, maybe 4 years after I decided that, having it. So I just want to say that I'm not telling anyone to scrap goals or dreams or visions. I'm just saying that I don't do New Year's resolutions just because of the added pressure. However, I will say this. Goals are still important as well because they kind of give us like a guidance. They kind of give us inspiration and something to live for. So therefore, for me, I set goals. However, I do reassess them throughout the year, or maybe it does come to an end of a year or end of a month, and I just keep them. I don't really say, well, how well did I do? I just kind of ask myself, do I still need to do this? Is this still important? Versus, oh my gosh, I didn't do it. I feel like a failure. What have I been doing this whole year? I'm sure you can all relate, and you just kind of beating yourself up and just feeling like you just cannot make it when you set a goal. But truth be told, the goal is about outcomes. And so if we don't meet this thing, it makes us feel like we lack. But what happens is we miss all of those things that we are doing. So I'll give you an example. Say my goal is to walk 2 miles and I walk 1 mile. I could be so focused on not walking the 2 miles that I missed the fact that I actually took some steps and walked a mile. So I hope that kind of makes sense. I kind of want to kind of give you that practical view and practical understanding of what a goal is and how it kind of impacts us when we set goals. So over the last few years, what I have been focused on is words. So having a theme for the year or having a focus for the year. And again, it doesn't just have to be a year. It could be a season. It could be a day. It could be a week. Remember, I want to talk a lot about having flexibility. So recently I was discussing with some people. I was in a group, and I remember them talking about, your business goals and what do you want to do the next quarter. And I just felt so anxious, so overwhelmed, and just so much pressure on myself. I don't know what I want to do. Well, what am I going to do? Oh my gosh, I have to do this in 3 months. And it was just so overwhelming that I kind of knew just in my heart, like, this wasn't for me. This is not how I do things. And I know people be like, you have to have a 3-month quarter or a 6-month quarter. And it was really hard to say that because people have been successful off of that, but people have also been successful in other ways. And so I also realized as a highly sensitive person that goals can be overwhelming. And I remember reading about someone, I cannot remember her name, but I'll put her in the notes. But she talks to a lot to therapists who are highly sensitive and how they run their business. And I remember asking her, well, if we're not going to do goals, what do you suggest? And she said, well, what about setting intentions? I'm telling you guys, I was like, I breathed a sigh of relief. I just felt, even when she said that it just felt so freeing and so, what shall I say? It just felt like I could breathe and just less overwhelming and like, oh my gosh, I can still do this. Because I think with the 3 years, with the quarters goals, it felt like, oh my God, how am I going to get all this done? But with the intention and setting intentions, it's like, well, it's possible and I don't have to think about a deadline. Again, deadlines and goals are helpful and important, but they're not the be all and end all. It also helped me feel limitless. And I also felt like I was more engaged. Definitely when it came to my business, it was particularly in my business, and more focused in wanting to do the things that my business needed because I didn't have this, oh my gosh, deadline of the quarter. So since that, realizing how much freedom there is in intention setting, I have been more focused on setting intentions, whether they're daily, whether they're weekly, seasonally, monthly, whatever the case may be. And I decided this year that not only would I have a word for the year, which one word I have so far is powerful. My word can change or be added to or just stay the same. But I also wanted to do an intention. Like, one of my intentions is to increase my connection with the present moment and increase my relationship with the present moment. And that came from actually being off these 2 weeks. I realized how much far in my head I was and wasn't really being present. And then one of my other intentions is to deepen my abide in Jesus. And so those are some intentions for the year. Well, I don't want to say for the year. Those are my current intentions, and it could change. It could be added to, and it could stay the same forever. That's what I love about intentions. So I'm going along and feeling about intentions, and then everywhere I'm going, I'm seeing people talk about intentions on Instagram and all these things, and it just makes me feel like, yes, this is it. It's all lining up. This is exactly the path I need to be on. And then I remember listening to the Calm app today, and it was talking about intentions once again. And this really, for me, brought everything full circle. Like, I want to remind you guys, remember I stopped doing New Year's resolutions over 15 years ago, and I've moved into goal setting. And then from moving into goal setting, I've given myself flexibility and not just had it for a year, and not necessarily starting a habit, in the new year, but whenever I wanted to moving into doing words and things like that. So I have been progressing over what works for me, what gives me a sense of freedom and not feeling overwhelmed. And then I listened to the Calm app, and it's like it just brings it all together. We do things when we spend time with ourselves and we pay attention to what we need. We'll just do things naturally with what we need. And what she was saying is that intentions have a compassion energy. Intentions don't tie us to outcomes. Now remember, I was getting stressed about goals and the outcomes and not making it and feeling like a failure. And so naturally I'm making these adjustments, and then I'm listening to this and I realize, wow, this is why I do the intentions. This is why I did the words. It makes so much sense. I always say to my clients, you have all the answers. Like, we really, really do. So intentions have a compassion energy. They don't tie us to outcomes. They focus on what we want to create rather than what we need to fix. And so when we focus on what we need to fix, we have a sense that we're lacking. Remember, I was talking about the goal of the 2-mile goal, and when we're focused on that, then the 1-mile goal. And so she's also saying resolutions is focused on what is wrong with our lives and make us look for a solution. And they put more pressure on ourselves, and we can feel more guilt and more shame. And this makes total sense. What did I just say to you earlier? Imagine I'm thinking this 15 years ago, and then it just comes full circle as to why I do the things that I do that make sense for me. So I stopped feeling I did already stop feeling guilty about not doing quarterly goals and decided it just didn't work. And now I know why. I understand more fully as to why I did this. So please listen to yourselves and do things that work for you, because it will make sense in the end. And so the way I see intentions is they give us space for humanness. Goals are like so Goals are so outcome driven that we're just focused on the goal and we miss all the other things around us. I like to think about goals is the outcome. So goals is the end of the journey or of the path. And intentions is the journey. And in a journey is where all the juiciness and we learn all those things. And the journey is, remember, like if we're going from A to B, we might have to make a pit stop for food, for petrol, or to see someone, or there's a detour on the road, right? So just think that's the journey is the intention. And so as human beings, if we have a goal, but we're focused on the intention versus on the goal, like we're on that journey and the intention. So for example, our goal is I'm going to go back again to run a mile. Run 2 miles, right? Now, if I have the intention to focus on one step at a time, and then I'm beginning to see what I am doing, that's the journey. So I'm not focusing when I get there. I'm being in the moment and I'm focusing on one step at a time. In that, I might notice my left and my right and the flowers and all these things. I might step in a puddle. But that's okay, because I'm just focused on one step at a time. I'm not focused on the outcome. And that's what intentions are. They are really about the journey. I hope that is helping you guys. I really wanted to share this because perhaps you have given up on setting goals altogether and you don't set anything because, like me, you felt like a failure. Well, I want to give you something else So perhaps to help you, just be intentional. Maybe you don't set any goals ever again, and all you're doing is focusing on intentions. Intentions will even make you be more present. Intentions is about how we're acting and how we're being versus what we're doing. Maybe you're someone who doesn't want to do a New Year's resolution or has started already and given up, and you need a new way of doing things. Maybe you're someone who just needs to break down things into daily, weekly, monthly, or seasonally and not do the new year. Maybe you're someone who's really doesn't want to set goals in 2021 because of 2020, but you can still be intentional, right? You can, like, my intention is to be present and interact with the present. Like, we can still do that, and you will feel so fulfilled. I promise you, you will feel so more fulfilled than just doing the goal and focusing on the outcome. Or perhaps you've been doing goals and you have another idea, and this episode might give you permission, another way of living, and you're still holding on to the goals, you want to let go, but you don't know what to do. And this might give you permission to, try it your way and just really what's in your heart to do. I hope this is really, really helpful for you guys. I would love to hear your feedback. Please email me and just let me know your thoughts. You can just email me podcast@biancahughes.com. I would love to hear your experience, what your intentions are, or tag me on the Instagram. I have changed my Instagram, and I'll put that in the show notes because it is now Bianca Keisha, the Instagram, just so you would let you guys know. You can always hashtag Authentic Wednesday Podcast. Why did I make a change? I'm doing some whole branding change, and in my true authentic style. It is not all done, but I really wanted to bring more of me, not just the podcast, but me, and just sharing. I just feel like having the Authentic Wednesday Podcast as the Instagram was a bit limiting, and so I made a change. Like, that season is over. Like, we talk about that. I just talked about that. That season is over, and having flexibility. So again, thank you so much for listening. As always, listening to the podcast, please tag a friend, share with a friend, text it to a friend. I'm always challenging you to share this. Remember, this podcast is about us taking off our mask and hearing other people's stories and experiences so that we can all live authentically, and we can all find ways to take off our mask and give ourselves permission to just thrive and be our authentic selves. So thank you so much.